Hello and very good afternoon to everyone joining us here at this webinar. I'm already seeing a great interaction on chat, so that was a great idea. Thank you for that. If you haven't heard that, please type where you're from, where you're watching us from, and let us know your name as well. My name is Marcin Musial. I'll be your host and I'll be your moderator for today's discussion panel. That's going to come later on in the day in about 20 minutes time. For the moment, I just want to say a huge welcome to the webinar brought to you by three amazing organizations. Obviously, it's a 30% Club Poland, it's European Women on Boards, and it's United Nations Global Compact. Thank you for joining us and being here. I know it's an important cause, and I'm sure we're going to see a lovely discussion later on. But just to start off the right foot and of the right note, I would like to welcome Annette Santeshi from 30% Club Poland. And well, I'm just going to hand you the microphone, whatever it means on a webinar. Go ahead and take the stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, can you hear me? Yes.
Absolutely,
good.
yes.
Hello, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Annette Santeshi, and I'm the ambassador and co-founder of 30% Club in Poland. It is my great pleasure and honor to give you some information about 30% Club, particularly during this prominent webinar that we are co-organizing with the European Women on Board and UN Global Compact Network Poland. If we shall have the presentation, please now. Yes, thank you very much. And we can move on. So 30% Club is a global campaign led by chairs and CEOs promoting women on boards. It was set up in the UK in 2010 with the aim of achieving a minimum of 30% female representation on the boards. And now, 12 years later, if we look at the map, we can see that other countries joined the initiative. And nowadays, it has a truly global reach from Canada, US, Brazil to Australia, with Poland joining last year. Some of our most prominent members that you surely recognize are Amanda Blank, Warren Buffett, just to name a few, but there are many others. Probably now you're asking yourself, all right, but why are members and countries joining 30% Club? Because it works. It was set up in the UK in 2010 when the female representation on boards in FTSE 100 index was 12.5%. And 10 years later, the number rose to 35%. And now we are just looking at the example of UK. But if we were to take a glance at the other countries, the success stories are very similar. There are three strategic pillars of 30% Club that are supporting the achievement of the global mission, which is exactly to have at least a 30% female representation of women on boards. It is being done through activating chairs and CEOs as members, also influencing these with the power to make this change happen, and of course, enabling women to become future leaders. Now that we know that 30%, what is 30% Club and why is it successful? Maybe we need some answers. Why do we need to promote women at all? Well, on one hand, I think we all know intuitively that gender balance encourages better governance, better leadership. It increases innovation. It attracts and retains talent, increases or actually leads to better organizational culture. But these are all intangible benefits. However, if we look at the numbers, there are also some measurable performance ratios, which are simply better. Please take a look at the EBITDA. There is a premium for diverse and inclusive companies, and also other key financial ratios are simply better. If you would like some more details, please reach out to the Credit Suisse Gender 3000 reports directly. Now, I would like also to tell you why Poland joined. If we again look at the numbers, the situation in Poland was very much similar to the one we had 10 years ago in the UK. The female representation in boards in Poland is 16.6%. So there is actually a lot to be done, and companies in Poland are not realizing their full potential. They are choosing board members from only half of the available talent, and Polish companies unfortunately tend to rank low on ESG metrics due to this. So now with the European Women on Boards, with the directive that is coming, and the, of course, 30% club, we hope to change it in the near future. So that was all from me. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you would like to reach out to us, please do it directly through our website and the email account. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Lots needs to be done, like you said. I think our webinar as well is part of a road for gender equality, and we all agree on that. And more on that topic, someone who's very well interested in that and knows pretty much all about it. It's Hedwig Nuyens from European Women on Boards. And well, it is your turn to tell us more about it, tell us about the issue. So please go ahead, Hedwig.
Yes, thank you so much. So it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the 30% Club and all the organizations and the people here to have invited me and given such a chance to talk. So European Women on Boards, very much in the same line as the 30% Club, is also favoring gender equality at the top of boards. And I think that Eva Kubin is going to say a few words first.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here with you. And I'm also pleased that there is so many of us. So thanks to all of you. So let's start. I would like to tell you that I'm natural born optimist. And I think the word is pretty good place to be, but it's not yet perfect. The change, however, will probably not happen by itself. Well, can you hear me now? Oh, okay. By itself. It requires a bit of our help, and I do believe we can and should be a part of it. For example, me, as a mother of 2 girls, I want to ensure that one day, when they will read about struggle for gender diversity, they will be able to do it only in book on history, as it will not be an issue anymore. My name is Eva Kubin. I am Talent Acquisition and Development Director at the most innovative retail company in Poland, Żabka Polska, and I'm also proud to be committee member at European Women on Boards. So today, let me tell you a few words about an organization that is really a part of a change. European Women on Boards is pan-European, Brussels-based, non-for-profit organization. It was organized and funded in 2013, and since that time, it's committed to diversity and inclusion, as we strive to have gender balance organization at all levels. As I mentioned, EWOP is non-for-profit organization, so we all work pro bono. There is over 100 highly motivated and passionate volunteers who are working every day to build a professional community of senior female leaders. We connect our members not only digitally, but also in person through various events. And there's one thing that I'm especially proud about. It's that we understand the words gender diversity. In EWOP, we actively working to increase our number of men allies, as more gender diversity can only be achieved by working together. So what we do? First of all, we build partnership with national associations, corporations, and EU institutions. Let's talk about today. Today, we met to celebrate our great relationship with 30% Club Poland. At EWOP, we are also carrying out research to measure gender diversity at decision-making level in the top 600 European companies. Good news, every day there is more and more of us. Our aim is to build a talent pool of senior executive women, an army of 1,000 great women in leadership position by 2023. And what we do to make it happen? Well, we do various activities. For example, mentoring program, C-level school. I'm an alumni, by the way. 5-step program that can help you to move forward in your career and get the job that you always wanted. To sum up, please find our objectives for 22 and 23. First, we want to build a talent pool of 1,000 women ready and eager to move to C-suites and the board positions. Then, we want to be present in 20 European countries. Third, we want to engage and partner with companies and executive search firms. We want to help our people. And last but not least, we want to support the EU Directive for Gender Balance on Boards. So at the very end, I have one request. I encourage you to join us on the way to achieve our dream in EWOP, well, also my personal dream, to push the struggle for gender diversity to the books on history. I assure you, together we can do it. Thank you very much. And here you have contacts if you want to know something more about us.
Thank you very much, Eva. That was very well said. And moving on, like I said before, Hedvig, you can go ahead now. I'm sure it is your turn now.
Yes, thank you so much. So I'm the chair of European Women on Boards, delighted to be here. And so I would like to tell you a little bit more about why it is so important to have this directive now. We have been waiting 10 years because the Parliament was already agreeing with this directive and with the 40% objective of men and women in the boards more than 10 years ago. And so we're European Women on Boards, we've advocated, we've lobbied again, each single state. Poland was one of the very difficult ones to convince, and one of the only one that did not agree with the directive, but most of the other countries did. And now we are very proud to say that we contributed also to this big success. And why is this so important? Because we see that without a clear objective, countries do not move. We know that the biggest progress has been in countries like France, who have set clear objectives years ago. And still now, countries like Estonia, for example, which has one of the highest educated population, only has less than 10% women on boards. So why is it important? Because we need that target across the European Union, and that is what we have now. With European Women on Boards, we actually are going to contribute to the success as well, because the first thing, as Eva said, is we encourage each single talented woman to come and see us and to see how they can be even better prepared to take on positions. We are also saying there should be no barrier. If you want it, if you're ready, if you're eager, we can help you. Of course, this will not happen without other measures, and that's why this policy measure and this European directive is so important. We're going to implement this in every single country in the European Union. And that's why it's so important to work together with local associations, with national champions like the 30% Club in Poland and in other countries, to have that local knowledge, to have the local network. And last but not least, it's very important to work together with corporates, with executive search firms, and with all men willing to help us and to listen to our story, and of course, also to make this happen. So for us, it's really about a win-win. We know that diverse teams actually perform better. We know that women are extremely well talented and apt to take on the jobs. And we can learn from countries like France, like Norway, who have more than 40% women on boards already, that it is really possible. And so this is the story we want to share with you. We started the program not even 1 year ago, and we already have nearly 500 women saying, I'm ready, I'm eager. And we're going to find the other 500 very soon, we're sure. We are very glad to have so many men men in the audience today. We are also very glad to have so many men willing to help us in our organization. And I listen and I try to reach out to as many people as I can every single day. So I would say, if you have questions, if you want to reach out to us, we are there to help. Eva said this, all people of the executive committee and the board are working for free. I'm also volunteering in this apart from my CEO role. And actually we have plenty more to say and to offer. So feel free, and if you have questions, we can come back later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And speaking of questions, I do read the chat from time to time. And there was a question from Mariola. I think it was already answered by Eva about volunteering for European Women on Boards. We do not have direct questions to our speakers, but feel free to use the chat, and I'm sure someone's going to reply to you. If not, I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to make sure that that question passes on. And speaking of questions, we're going to start our panel now, which is the next part of our meeting today, of our webinar. And I'm going to stick to you, Hedvig, since, well, you were already speaking. And please do excuse me if I only introduce next speakers as they go on. I think it makes more sense since we are here online on a webinar. So I'm going to introduce everyone as they go. Not right now. I think it's going to make more sense to our viewers, and they're going to remember it better. But since you're already here, Hedvig, that main topic, the title of our panel, is how to be ready for women on boards and C-level. When I first read that, I'll be honest with you, I asked myself, why do we need to ask ourselves that question? Well, first of all, is the circumstances, but I think there's a deeper, more underlying question of why in 2022, in 21st century, we need to ask a question of how to be ready for women, and why are we not ready yet? So please go ahead. Oh, and if you can unmute your microphone.
Yes, so that's a very good question. And it's a question we still receive every day. So both persons saying, why do we need a directive? And others saying, but is it a quota, and is a quota a good idea? So I'm going to answer both. Why do we need a directive? Because precisely we see that if you do not set an objective at the top of companies, you will not get parity. That we have seen in Europe. We've been waiting for years, and we have only seen change in countries where a target, an objective was put forward. So countries like France, like Norway. That is actually what we now have said with the European directive, that it's not a quota. So we should explain the difference between quota and objective. What the directive actually says is every stock listed company has to put forward an objective for the number of men and the number of women in their board. They have to publish criteria. How are they looking for board directors? They have to explain how they select the best board director, and they should also publish what they are doing in practice. And then at the level of the countries, the objective is indeed to have 40% men, 40% women by mid-2026. And so I think that's a very balanced regulation, because it means that fundamentally we are looking for the best board directors, but it means that if you have a full male board, you should also ask the question whether these are the best possible directors. So it's about choosing the best ones, be much more clear in what criteria you have, how you have selected them, publish it, make it much more transparent. And overall, we need to get a 40%. And that's not really difficult, because we know that at the entrance, 60% of the women are actually having university diplomas. So that means that 60% of the university students are women. So you have much more female talent available than actually you have male talent. So it should be no problem. And we are going to prove it with EWOP, having sufficient talent available for the job.
Well, thank you for that. I'm sure there's plenty of people here in this online room, and you don't have to convince them that it is possible, it is doable, and definitely one of those persons is Adam Mańkowski, Executive Vice President of the Management Board managing director of Żabka Poland. I'm sure if you've ever been to Poland, you know Żabka. It's a grocery store pretty much at every corner. And that is why, and that is who I'm going to direct my next question. So Adam, if it's possible, and it is possible, which Żabka proved already with 3-on-3 in your management board, so it's pretty much half and half. How did that happen? Did it come naturally, or was that the goal of Żabka to have 3 women and 3 men on board?
So first of all, hello everyone, and thank you for the invitation. And answering your question, it was a natural step for us. But in order to do this, you need to have a proper culture in the organization. And I just want to tell you a little bit more, because that's true. We have 8,500 stores, and we are one of the biggest retailers in Europe and fastest growing in Europe, actually. And we have in overall organization, in our head offices, 60% of the people employed are women on the senior positions, managing the departments like legal, law, marketing, commercial, technical, or even sales. So we have over-representative of women in many of the positions, but it proves that in our case, it took us some time, because it's a journey, how you create and how you put the approach to the diversity and inclusiveness in your DNA. And in our case, that we are half-half, so we have 3 women in our management board. It came naturally, because those women are not recruited from outside and put to the board, but those were internal promotions, which proves that our approach to equality, to diversity, is a proper one. So we are making sure that we have a culture of equal opportunities. I think this is the most important, but not only to say, but that they also, employees could feel it. And also that we have inclusive organizational culture. This is extremely important to make sure that everyone feels that have the same opportunities to grow and to develop. Furthermore, we are making sure that we have the proper check, and we check the pulse on this, and we are conducting and completing different but equal studies. And it showed us just recently that 90% of the people who took part in the study, participating there, are feeling of equal treatment, which shows us that we are on a very good positioning to make sure that the people, or everyone, is feeling included in organization. So how to achieve it? It was not the case that we put ourselves a target. In our case, it was to make sure that we create diverse teams. That first of all, we create the proper culture, inclusive culture, and it came naturally for us. And what I can tell, and I can also admit to what we have heard before, that diverse teams are achieving much better results. So in our case, fantastic results achieved by our company are not by accident, but by the fact that we treat diversity as a part of our culture.
Thank you very much for that. Culture, that is the key. That's what I got from your answer. So thank you for that. And we'll move just very closely to culture with, unfortunately, stereotypes involved. And that is my next question to Mariola Szymańska from 30% Club Poland. Obviously, there are stereotypes involved. So my question is, how can we handle that? And how can we fight through it? And how far are we of that perfect balance between, well, something that is true in stereotypes and something that we definitely have to fight in order to achieve a perfect balance in a workplace between men and women? And once again, I'm going to ask you to unmute your mic. Please keep that in mind once you start speaking. Thank you.
Hi, pleasure being with you today. I have a bundle of thoughts listening to you so far. One reflection or one thought is, after hearing Adam, is that we have a lot of sort of paradise culture bubbles in terms of diversity. But the challenge is how to make the ripple spread, so to speak. And I think this is not happening yet. And my personal opinion is that today still And that is for sure in Poland, we are far, far away from the equality. And I think the challenge is built in what Adam was saying, that it's all about the culture and it changes very slowly. And the stereotypes have been with us for thousands of years, and that is why it is so difficult to change it. And I think it's a mixture of our habits, stereotypes, and also power play, which is, I think, a more dominant feature for the masculine world, so to speak. But in my intervention, I thought I would like to be practical, really, and add to the possible things that we can do better. And recently, I participated in a networking session of women, and there was this young girl entrepreneur, and she was really trying to manage her nerves and the anger, describing how in her experience she's been treated in a numerous professional clubs which are still men dominant. And one of the recommendations arising from that is that men network as part of the professional activity. Women don't. And I think we undermine the power of professional networking. And there are various reasons for it. The simple reason is, and that was actually the comment of the girl that I have just mentioned, is that women do not have time for networking. And that is because there is no parity in how we take care of our families, the kids, and the homes. So trying to identify things that we can do better is, and being practical, I would say more professional networking for women, nothing new, but infrastructure for taking care of the kids. And finally, coming back to the stereotypes, I would say education, education, and education. I really think we need to start with schools. I think we should all have a new subject of diversity at the schools. And then when we grow, I think there should be more practical workshop for young people to identify many stereotypes that we are not aware of. And sometimes it's the stereotypes are not just bad will, it's lack of knowledge. And honestly, I can say it from my personal experience very often. If I see a bad driver in the street, automatically I would say that it's a woman driving, which is more often than not, and more frequently than not the case. So we have to be critical to ourselves, but I really believe we need education to be able to handle and see through the stereotypes. And closing up this intervention, by nature, I'm an optimist, but from my experience years ago, and I have some 30 years of professional experience, I was very critical about quotas, objectives, and so on. But we need those because otherwise the dream of Eva will not be part of her daughter's life because they will not live long enough to see the change. So we need the objectives or the quotas, and those quotas or objectives should be really owned by the leaders of today's, as Adam is, I'm sure. And when I'm saying leaders, those are CEOs, but those are prime ministers, those are presidents, and why not? This is the Pope. We need the leaders to influence the culture, but on a sort of grassroots level, I think the more we talk to each other about this, the more there are believers that the change is needed, the quicker it will happen. Because to sum up, I recently was touched at the ending of a newly launched film of Lost Illusions by Balzac. And the main character at the end of the film says, "Did I have to lose all my illusions to start a new life?" And I hope we do not have to lose all our illusions to start anew. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariola. Education is definitely important. Please keep that in mind. I'm going to come back with education question to you with the second round of questioning later on. Thank you for all the interactions on the chat. It is pretty amazing. One more reminder, you can go ahead and share your LinkedIn profiles. You can build a network here on the chat. It is strongly encouraged. So thank you for all the interactions. I think Robert pointed out one important thing, that a lot of boards are male dominated. It's pretty obvious, but I want to bring that into discussion before we introduce our next guest. And that is Andrzej Kozłowski, president of the management board and CEO of Emitel, 30% Club Poland member as well. I'm smiling because a lot of praise has been put on Adam for being a great manager and building a great culture, but I'm sure Andrzej is just a great guy as well. So my next question is in regards to competition. This is something we very often hear in regards to women in the workplace. So let's say, Andrzej, let's say that I'm a woman and I'm a very competent. Obviously, there's plenty of women like me. Is it my job to show that my competition is enough to get me promoted to a C-level board, or is it the corporate's job to notice me?
Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. It's great to be on this panel. It's a very important, interesting discussion so far. So thank you once again. And well, to answer your question, well, the simple answer would be both. Okay, but of course, the issue is much more complex. The former CEO of COO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, claimed that that most men would apply for positions when they met just 60% of the requirements, while women only would apply if they met 100% of them. And this is really important, I think. You know, unfortunately, excuse me, unfortunately, in my opinion, women tend to undersell their work, undersell their competencies, which is a pity, of course. So in my view, organizations, I mean, the companies have clear responsibility to create better policies and opportunities for women. And still at the same time, women also need to support also needs the support to step forward and overcome, the habits holding them back. So in my opinion, consideration should be given to the specific support for women very early on their careers. We should introduce development and mentoring programs specifically aimed at women. And the important thing is also to focus on so-called debiasing of the whole system, of the entire system. Actually, this discussion is a part, of course, of this debiasing the system initiative. But we need to do more. That is why we need to introduce special training for all managers, but also supervisory board members, to encourage them to challenge their own biases. So once again, I think that the answer is both, but of course, there's a lot that needs to be done on the corporate level, and there's a lot that needs to be done in order to help, for the managers, for those who decide on promotion of women, to to recognize that there is a problem, that there is an issue.
That is a great point, Andrzej. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure everybody remembers from their time in school or maybe at the university when a woman and a man go into an exam, and the man always comes out happy, not knowing much, and then the woman with all the notes, reading all the books, preparing for hours and hours, comes out stressed out and not sure about her result. In the end, that is a great point you brought up. Thank you for that. Unless you want to add something, then go ahead.
I'm okay for now. Thank you.
Awesome. And last but not least, when it comes to our speakers on the panel right now, Katarzyna Bąkiewicz, ethical communication expert in business and a member of UN Global Compact. And since you are communication expert, Kasia, I want to ask you about the difference between the communication that many companies put out, something that they want to be known for, this is how they want to be seen, and something that they actually do towards equality when it comes to gender in a workplace.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm glad to be here. And one correct, Bąkiewicz, not Bąkiewicz. This is a very important point. So it's no problem. Okay. So when we are talking about communication and the difference between how communicators communicate in terms of gender diversity and actions, I want to say that first point, we are in not so bad place, but still it's not a wonderful place. Obviously, companies know that communication is creating their image and perception of business and social environment, but we can observe here two gaps or maybe places to improve. The first situation is when companies, the employees and their managers know that diversity and inclusion and equality are very important. So in a lot of activities, they communicate what they are doing, how they improve the world in local and global scale. They declare that they are doing things to equalize the changes of working people. Very often they use feminatives or have a special conditions for mother or, for example, for the people with neurodiversity. But in reality, it's not so optimistic, because if we start talking with women, we learn that under the claimed equality, we have violence. It's, of course, very often a psychological violence, very often difficult to recognize or very violent. Fortunately, women learn how to recognize violence, and they know where and to whom to signal or to report that, but this is still not 100% among women. And on this field, we see big opportunity to bring more awareness. But when we are talking about difference between communication and reality, we have to remember about the other side. It's the opposite to the one described, that when companies do a lot of things in diversity equality space, but don't communicate it. And we see two reasons for that situation. First, that when companies have firmly established values and ideas related to equality, and talking about everywhere make for them no sense. They are thinking that everybody think and do the same, and this is a big mistake. So they implement diversity and inclusion solutions, we can say underground. And the second situation, very important in my opinion, is connected with the shame. We need to remember that men are under great pressure from the side their male colleagues from company or from board. Very often they want to invite more women to cooperate, but they are afraid of male colleagues' opinion or sometimes ostracism, very often. And this is the reason why many men don't want to talk about activities in the field of gender equality. And here we come to the point. Business is a creator of public discourse. It's a very important part of social narrative, and therefore it is great responsibility for how people, not only those who are working in these companies, will talk, think, and in effect act. If we want a real equality, we need the narrative about it. We need to change androcentric discourse into equality discourse. From the discourse and the language start everything. And this is not only a slogan, this is our reality. From the discourse, that why we have to think how we are talking about men and women, what we communicate in internal and external communication. Companies have to start think about women and appropriate place for them. And second, we have to tell society about women in our company, because this is the moment when women on boards is not enough. The board members have to start talking about the role of this woman.
Thank you very much, Kasia, once again. And now we'll move on to the second round of questions. You can go ahead and type some questions in the chat. I'll try to use them as much as I can here in the conversation that is to follow. And we'll move back to Hedvish. I do have a question. I think you mentioned that already with your speech at the very beginning about countries, and something that, well, there are countries that we can learn on, that are doing great. I think you mentioned France with over 40% women on boards already, but there are also definitely some countries that need to do better. And well, I think you mentioned Poland in that as well. And I also remember Sweden being a little bit stubborn. But if you could walk us through and give us examples of countries that are doing great in that matter and something that we can learn from them, and then countries that definitely need to improve and what needs to be improved in those countries.
Yes, thank you so much. So indeed, you have very different cultures at first. So I think that's very important. So you have countries like my country, for example, in Belgium, but also France, where actually things only started to change when regulation came in. And so for France, regulation came in very, very early. It was also set at a sufficient high target, which is a second element that is important. It's now 40% in France. And when you set a target of 40, you see that in practice, companies will go beyond that. And so in France, you have 45. In Belgium, it's 33. And being 33, actually in practice, you are at 37. And then you have other countries like the Nordic countries, Sweden and Finland, where even when there was no regulation, the companies actually started to get an objective and to move forward. So in some countries in Europe, change happened also with so-called soft measures or measures taken by companies themselves. You see it actually also in the UK. The UK doesn't really like top-down regulation, but they had guidelines. They had a cooperation between the government and the organization, also very, very nice body helping this. And so actually in the UK, they are quite far ahead. And 50% of the non-executive directors that are nominated now are women. So different systems can work. What doesn't work, we know as well. What doesn't work is when there is no regulation and no intention whatsoever of companies to do something and to set forward objectives. And so we've heard it a couple of times already. What we need now in Europe is have a clear objective that's on the table, a clear deadline, it's on the table as well, mid-2026. In each country, there will be a body in charge, an organization in charge of following up the numbers, following up the action plan of the companies. And then, of course, organizations like EWOP will do numerous actions to really create that pipeline, to engage with executive search companies, to prepare women, to make it for them more easy to be visible, to explain what they want, to explain, to make their pitch, and to actually be available for those positions. And last but not least, it is all about culture. So indeed, it's not going to change if you only have a few women more on the boards. That's not what we want. It's about having much more women in all decision frameworks, so not only the boards, but also the executive committees. And so once we move on with the board, we will definitely also work on the executive committee.
Do you want to mention the countries that is going to be the most challenging for EWOP to implement?
Well, we know that countries like Luxembourg are doing poorly, Hungary, Poland, but looking at this positively, those are the countries with the biggest opportunities, because actually you have to double the numbers, and that's exactly what we are going to do. So yes, it will be more difficult, but at the same time, some of those so-called more problematic governments have asked us for help already, and so we now know that the directive is there, and so once that you need to move on, some governments will ask for help, and that's what we're going to do, help in a very positive and cooperative way.
I love the silver lining and the optimistic thought of the opportunities for the countries that are doing poorly. Thank you very much, Hedvige. And I'm going to move on to Andrzej. And it's going to be difficult and, well, it's going to sound controversial, but it's man-to-man question, Andrzej. And, well, very often with the issue of women in the workplace and not enough women in the workplace, let's just say, it's also an issue of men who do not want more women on boards. So a straight up question, why as a man we should care, just simply care about allowing more women on boards? Because I think Robert pointed it out on chat that, well, if boards are male dominated, it's the males who need to make a change to some extent, obviously.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Okay, so let me answer this as a CEO of a company, and it's, for me, it's fairly simple. And we saw the best evidence at the beginning of this panel in Annette's presentation. If we increasing gender diversity has direct impact on earnings, right? So women leaders have a key measurable impact on an organization's bottom line. So why should I give up such an easy way to improve my company's results? Okay, I mean, and now seriously, well, based on my experience, I mean, I've worked with a lot of women, not on the boards of Emitel, but in my previous jobs. And my observation is that when women become leaders, when they're on the top, they really provide a different set of skills and different kind of perspectives. And more importantly, female leaders bring structural and cultural differences to the table, which really drive effective solutions. So it's so in today's world, with all those challenges that we are facing, you just want to increase the talent pool. You want to reach for people with different mindset. So for me, it's obvious. Of course, I mean, deciding whom to promote can be very complicated business. But again, based on my experience, women are able to make bold and wise decisions as leaders. This helps make the team environment less authoritative and more cooperative. So bringing a family-like feel to the team, this is very important, especially in the circumstances when we're all acting under stress, when there is no time to make critical decisions. This boosts teamwork across the organization. This is very important. So frankly speaking, I don't have an answer to this question. Why some of men are biased. Because for me personally, I think it just doesn't make sense. It's really pays off to engage women.
Thank you very much. And just to be clear, it's not, I mean, I believe me and Andrzej are on the same page. It's just that sometimes we need to ask challenging questions to make a difference. So thank you for your answer, Andrzej. And we'll move back to Mariola. And I promised you a question about education. And I think it's an interesting topic to discuss. So when it comes to education, do you think that the change in a workplace should come from changes in a society in the first place, or the changes should happen in workplaces and then spread towards societies? What do you think? Mariola, I can see you and I definitely cannot hear you. Are you
Yes,
still
I
with us?
started talking.
Oh,
I had to unmute my, sorry for that. So I think the answer is sort of obvious. It has and it should happen on both levels, or even more levels. It's home, education, that is schools and universities and workplace. It's an integrated system, and that is why again it is so demanding. And if those at least three worlds, and there are more worlds in our world, they oppose each other, then we have this battle, pressures, and a lot of stress around. So but we need to start somewhere, and I very much agree with what was said, that there are different situations in different countries. So I think we need to identify in each country what will push us forward quicker in this particular situation. We have a political context, we have a cultural context, and we have corporate context. From this perspective, in Poland, I would think that the corporates can provide the leadership in this change, and perhaps here and now, this is the most practical approach to really progress in this area. To show some practical examples, so I think all our men colleagues should be speaking on public television, radio, and social media, presenting the achievements and your perspective. Because on the other hand, I come and I work for financial services, and I can honestly tell you that still today, I find myself in a room with some 30 guys and I'm alone. And what's even worse, they think it's okay. Yes, if I work in an international environment, this is perceived as something unnatural. And here, nobody pays attention. And this is the situation, honestly, when I'm in the 30% Club Polska, I believe the change has come. And then when I go out of the bubble, the situation looks different. For many, many years, I've been actively involved in financial education. Then we expanded the scope to entrepreneurial activities. And now I think the social education should very much open up to diversity and inclusion. And I very much support what Andrzej has just said, is, if I interpret it correctly, we have limited resources on the planet, and 50% of this resource is women. And let's grasp this opportunity and use it for the best benefits to all. And it's very much embedded in the ESG concept. And I truly believe that sustainable finance and solution is not an investment strategy, but it's an investment for our survival together.
Very interesting points. Thank you for that. I think we do have time for one more question to two of our speakers left. That is going to be Kasia and Adam. I think one of the issues here, at least when I read on the subject or when I watch a documentary about it, is that a lot of women feel like they do enough to get promoted to C-level or to boards, and they are not noticed by their higher ups, by their supervisors. So what can a corporation do in order to not miss a talent, in order to not miss someone working very hard, maybe doing a group project, maybe doing a majority of the work, in a group project but not being promoted for it, or maybe getting not promotable tasks, if you will. That's what I'm going to call it. So just briefly, how to not miss a talent in your team.
Adam, you want to go first?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kasia. Yes, I will say it briefly. So it was mentioned a few times that diverse teams, companies having diverse teams, they have better results. But it's not only because of diversity, but also because of the fact which helps them to attract and to grow the talents inside. And if those companies were not put diversity and inclusion on a high level, it wouldn't be possible, because you need to have talents from the diverse fields. So I think it is important. Culture was mentioned a few times, and I think this is the key enabler. You need to make sure that you have proper tools that create and promote the culture of diversity and inclusion. And for example, we can ask ourselves, also it was said that in Poland, this is the big journey for the companies to go. We can ask ourselves, how many companies in Poland, for example, breached gender pay gap? Yes, how many of them, like in Żabka, we have the equal salary certification, for example, we are proud of this. How many of the companies have it? And this is, we know from the different researchers that this is for a growing talent from diversity perspective is an obstacle if you don't have it. How many of the companies, they have diversity and inclusion manager promoting the diversity culture, making sure that it grows within the company, yes? And how many of them, for example, they do different but equal studies, making sure that all the activities which they implement in order to promote diversity and inclusion make sense. So I think those are some of the key enablers promoting the culture of diversity, which helps to grow diverse talents. We also need to make sure that we change the stereotypes, for example, that the men are good in this and women are good. It's no longer the truth. So we need to change the how we approach the stereotypes. Also, very important things to make sure that we allow the talents to grow in the company are, of course, development programs, equal for everyone, making sure that everyone has the same access to the knowledge and to growth, but also the things like, for example, flexible working time, remote time, or even flexible time within the day, how you want to work, which is from diversity perspective is also important. So I think that it's a broader topic, but you need to look at from the pyramid perspective, and you need to make sure that you have the bottom of the pyramid, the foundation created to grow, to find and to grow the talents. And this bottom of the pyramid is, of course, the culture, which is based on diversity and inclusion.
Adam, thank you for your wonderful question. I have one more to this, because I want to ask every companies, you remember how close connection is between real activities for equality and image of these companies, because this is one logical process. If company do good things in equality field and responsible communicate about it, they will be able to get better and better employees, because they are sharing the same values. And better employees give better results for company, both financial and social. So in long-term effect, company has a better image and a better financial performance, because we need to remember in business, very important is money, of course. And now we know that equality, so women on boards, helps to generate it. And that's all.
Fully agree.
Thank you.
That is all as far as the panel goes. So thank you very much to all the speakers, and thank you for all the interactions on the chat. And well, we're not done yet, but we're pretty close. One last speaker of today, Milena Olszewska-Miszuris, will wrap it up for you guys with some closing remarks. Milena, go ahead.
Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. These wise words of Ruth Bader Ginsburg are still more of a target and challenge than reality. It takes everyone's effort to make them come true. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, they bring value added to corporates. Various international research suggests that enterprises that apply these principles and have more diverse boards and C-suite, they record better financial results, lower risks, higher market multiples. Still, worldwide, women remain a minority on boards, CSUD, and in political lives. Thus, we have lesser impact on crucial decisions that shape everyone's future. That needs to change. As humanity, we need more women at the table to make decisions paving our sustainable future. So my message would be for men not to treat gender diversity as zero-sum game. We all need more diversity of thought, experience, and perspective. Yet in order to keep that diversity, we need equal chances and inclusion. And that's a choice managers at the top of corporate ladders can take and execute. And dear ladies, my message to you would be to understand that we are enough. It's not that we need to change to fit into the current world. We are needed the way we are. We bring on diversity. And we all, men and women, should modify the rules how power is obtained and kept so that those who represent us represent the entire population in all its diversity. So if your boards and CSUD are not diverse, it's high time to start preparing for the Women on Boards Directive. The directive aims for large listed companies to introduce, by the end of June 2026, transparent corporate recruitment procedures so that at least 40% of non-executive directors or 33% of all directors are represented by the underrepresented gender. Making ambitious goals in terms of gender diversity is a good way to start. At 30% Club, we believe that tone is set at the top, so we engage CEOs and chairs to act to increase diversity at their companies and in the countries they operate. So please contact 30% Club Poland or our chapters globally to make that change, because together we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Milena. Is there anything else we need to add on before I wrap up the whole webinar? Is there any speaker who would like to say anything else before we finish? I think we're pretty much done here. So thank you very much for joining us. Some thought-provoking, that is well said, well put, conclusions that happen here will definitely echo for a few more weeks and months to come. Hopefully by 2026, we'll see a huge change and the companies will take it head on. And please keep in mind that you can rewatch the whole webinar or recommend it to a friend on any of the organizers' website after it's done. We're going to post it soon. And make sure that you visit the events LinkedIn website to stay in touch with our speakers and with the companies as well. My name is Marcin. It was my honor and a pleasure. Thank you again one more time to all the speakers. Thank you to everyone who took part as a viewer or on the chat as well. It was our pleasure to host it for you, to bring it for you. So, well, see you next time on an event like this, I hope. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon. Thank you and see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.